Hey guys, JCPenney is introducing Collection by Michael Strahan, a new line of quality tailored suits, modern dress shirts, and smart accessories, all designed to make you look and feel good. It's inspired by classic, sophisticated looks and available in select stores or jcp.com. Also, check out the men's semi-annual wardrobe sale now through September 27th, where you can get 50% off all suits and sport coats. It's about looking good at a great value. JCPenney, when it fits, you feel it.
We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Our next guest coming to us live with NFL picks from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It's Red Heat himself. His name is Cam Stewart. Cam, what's going on?
What's happening, Bomani? Yeah, early call this week. I'm still putting the numbers in, but I heard you're going away tomorrow, so we got to get things done on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm taking tomorrow night off, so I'm glad that you were able to join us. I didn't realize you put this level of research into it, though, where you needed all that time.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you know, I a lot of the time I go by feel, but I like to look at the line movement. That's one thing for people who are betting on games. I learned a lot, you know, because I've been betting since I was a little guy, and I'll tell you one thing. When something's too good to be true in the NFL, it's usually too good to be true. And take a look at last week's Survivor pools. Tampa Bay taking out the Saints. Jacksonville winning outright against Miami. That's crazy stuff. Oakland beating Baltimore. I'm in a league with about 1,200 guys, and already like 1,100 people are out. So it was a crazy week in the NFL. You know, man, sometimes when things look good, they actually don't look good. So I just like to see the way, you know, where the money's moving, what people are betting on and stuff. But a lot of the time I do go by research, but I go by vibes as well. A lot of things go into capping.
Well, tell me this. Is there any line in a survival pool, or any game in a survival pool that you look at and it's like, nah, that looks like a setup?
Yeah, well, the setup last week, I couldn't believe that Saints game. But take a look at this game from a spread perspective. We have Andrew Luck in Indianapolis against Tennessee. Tennessee gets smoked by Cleveland, and you're telling me Indy, a desperate team who's looked brutal, is only a 3-point favorite? In Vegas, I thought that line would come out at least, you know, minus 4.5, 5. I wouldn't even be surprised if it was 6 in some spots, but it's 3 points. So don't be surprised, Bomani, if crazy things happen and maybe Indy squeaks out a win but doesn't cover 3 points this week. That game, it's on my radar right now, but I haven't clicked the button yet. It's just too weird. I don't know. A desperate Andrew Luck, you got to believe that Indianapolis would win that game by a touchdown. But, hey, Vegas, they're not giving away money. These guys are pretty sharp.
All right, we're talking to Cam Stewart doing our NFL picks for us, coming live from Toronto, Canada. What do you think about the Rams of Pittsburgh this week?
Yeah, Rams in Pittsburgh. You know what? I know Pittsburgh's going to be a popular pick, and, hey, I love Ben Roethlisberger. I have him in one of my fantasy pools. You want to talk the relationship between him and Antonio Brown and the long ball that he throws, he's absolutely on point. But you know something, Bomani? The Rams are Jekyll and Hyde. That's all they are. They're horrible on the road and absolutely amazing at home. They're getting 1 point against Pittsburgh. I love the situation for them after an embarrassment against the Skins. I think they come back on their home field. This game looks like a total track meet. We're going to see lots of points, but I see the Rams getting it done as 1-point dogs and beating Pittsburgh. I love this game. This could be like a 31-28 type of game, but I like the Rams to get it done at home.
Now, you say that even with Le'Veon Bell coming back.
I don't care. That's the thing. One of these things, people are saying, oh, yeah, Le'Veon Bell's coming back. How is he going to play? I can tell you one thing from my experience. A lot of the time when the starters come back, the first week they're a little bit rusty, maybe a couple fumbles. He'll be a part of the offense, but they're going to ease him in slowly. I can see the Rams' defense showing up at home, actually making a couple plays more than Pittsburgh's defense and getting it done.
All right, we're talking to Cam Stewart doing NFL picks. What about the Eagles and the Jets? The Jets surprising 2-0. The Eagles are laughable 0-2.
You're telling me, man, what the hell's going on with Philadelphia? I'm looking at this team. They're begging to have Nick Foles back, Sam Bradford in this offense. Bomani, I thought they got their act together. I got to admit, last week I was wrong on that game. I thought they were going to take Dallas out to the woodshed. That was a bad pick by me. Great first week. Second week, I didn't really do your listeners any favors, but I'm going to Philadelphia. They're plus 2.5. If you can buy a half point and get 3 in this game, let's remember one thing, Bomani. The Jets forced 10 turnovers in the first 2 games. That's not going to happen again. That's a great percentage right now. They've been playing great, but they can't keep up that pace. Philly is desperate. We're going to see a lot of Murray in this game, and they're going to get it done. I got to believe Philly gets it done. They're a dog against the Jets. They show up this week and win a squeaker by a field goal.
All right, we got the Lions and Broncos on Sunday night. Matt Stafford going against that defense at Mile High Stadium.
What do you think? Am I crazy, Bomani? You know me personally. I'm a little bit off, but I'll tell you one thing. I like the Lions in this game.
Really?
I think I love the situation. First of all, Bomani, you're a huge sports fan like me. You watched that Kansas City game. Kansas City gave that game away. I'm watching Peyton Manning throw shot puts out there. His fastball's topping at about 50. He's got to take the Phillip Rivers approach and get the shot put into it there. I'm telling you, against Detroit, a hungry, desperate team on the road, I'm getting 3.5 points. I know the Lions have been brutal, but Matt Stafford will do enough in this game. Detroit's defense will get to Manning. He'll try to nickel and dime it. Detroit, I like them to win this game, so I'm going to take the 3.5.
All right, we're talking to Cam Stewart doing NFL picks. Let me ask you this, because you do a lot of work also on fantasy, do podcasts and all those things. Who's the guy on your fantasy team that's really, really letting you down? Because right now, for me, it's Andrew Luck. Yeah,
for you, Andrew Luck. For me, Marshawn Lynch. All those people who got Marshawn Lynch early, he hasn't done absolutely nothing. I'm just every week you got to plug him in when he's like the 5th or 6th back you're going to take in the first round. But he's killing me. I should be using Coleman. Even when Trey Mason comes back for St. Louis, I'm going to plug him in. And you're right, Bomani. Andrew Luck was a fantasy machine. Absolute dud. What a pathetic performance against the Jets.
Now, does Marshawn also get you in trouble because you're a Seahawks fan and so you feel
like you does, and that's another thing. Yeah, the Seahawks are one of those teams. Like, who do you take, right? They're kind of Doug Baldwin. I love Lockett. I think he's going to be awesome. But as a Seattle fan, they don't have a lot of fantasy magic. So as a fan of the team, I took Lynch, and right now I'm not very impressed.
All right, talking to Cam Stewart. You got a CFL pick for us?
Not this week, Bomani. I haven't done my research, and sorry for everybody who took the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. It was a brutal pick. Montreal ended up smoking them. I had a great first week. Last week I came down to earth. I have to apologize, Bomani. You bring me on ESPN. I got to give people some winners. So I guess the good news is if my picks suck, they can fade me. So it's a win-win situation, I guess, right?
Yeah, but you doing all right this year, though? I like to check on you about these things, make sure everything's going the way you want it.
Week 1 was fantastic. I collected a couple dimes. I told you, I can't lie. Last week I gave half of my bankroll back, but we're still a few games above 500 right now, about like 9-6 total. So I'm doing pretty good, Bomani. I'm making money, but this week I think I'm going to come back strong. A couple winners for you: Rams, Philly, and Lions, all dogs against the spread.
See, that's the thing. I've never been around you while you're riding a winner. I'm trying to think about how exhilarated a happy Cam Stewart is as you're riding all these winners.
Oh, man. I'll tell you. When I had Ricky Fowler in that golf tournament a couple weeks ago, 40-1, and my buddies got into it, we're at the bar. We put in $90 each. That feeling of collecting thousands of dollars. And, Bomani, I work at the sports bar, too, at Shoeless Joe's down there, so I get all the games on the screens. When I'm winning my bets, I go absolutely wild. When I'm losing, I go to the back room to the horse book and give some more away. That's my problem. Once I start, I can't stop.
You can't just sit around and be sad. Like, I figured that while it was going bad, you'd sit around and be sad and despondent. I didn't realize you were just jumping right back on the horse, so to speak.
Yeah, I know. That's what I do. I jump on the horse. The great thing about the place where I'm working, they got football games in the front. They got baseball and horses in the back, too. And I'll tell you, some of those old grifters, these horse players, these guys are sharp. You know what I mean? So when they lose in the football games, they can always give you a pick at Gulfstream to get you back, get your bankroll smiling again. Some of these old guys, Bomani, I'm telling you, seek these guys out. These guys, if they're playing horses, they usually got a few tricks up their sleeve.
All right, Cam Stewart coming to us live from Toronto. My man, tell the people how they can find you.
You can find me on Fantasy Sports Network, 6 o'clock tomorrow. We do a show for DraftKings. 11 o'clock, we got Vegas-style picks with my buddy Gabe and Brian Blessing. Also at AM 640 on Friday. If you want to click on the link, Monday and Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, I'm on with my buddy John Oakley. Some picks and some laughs. Bomani, always a pleasure, buddy. Enjoy your day off.
Bomani.
We have all been down on Seattle. I mean, they're 0-2. It's totally understandable. But I saw something on 538 today, Shannon, where they use the ELO method, and I can't really explain how it goes, but it's a method of iteration to take the games that have been played and, I don't know, it's some simulation. Either way, they ran some fancy numbers, and they say Seattle still has a 55% chance of making the playoffs this year. Because we can't forget this about Seattle. In the formula, their formula has basically been, if we can win 4 or 5 road games, we can get home field advantage. Forget about making the playoffs. We can get home field advantage if we win 4 or 5 road games because they'll win them all at home. Or you can reasonably expect them to win 7 games at home. If I
7 to 8 at home, yeah.
Yeah, if I gave you 7.5 and gave you on the over-under, over wouldn't be that chancy of a pick, right? So if you can get, let's just call it 7 there. If you get 7 there and you split your road games, that's 11.
Right.
I mean, and that will probably get you into the playoffs. Like, that's how it goes. So they're down 0-2, but both of the games they lost were on the road. So this wasn't taken away. If we play in spades here,
right,
they bid in 7 at home. Like, before they even look at their head, if it's at home, I got 7. Right there. I got 7.
And those 2 losses, one was a diamond and one was a heart. So
yeah, that's it. That's it. You know what I mean? That's what they got.
The division game, yeah, that was probably a king of diamonds, but they're not hurting for it, though.
No. They like to have that, but they can make that. They can get that one back. They can definitely get that one back somewhere else in the schedule. And so this is their first home game that they're going to be playing. Like, this is their home opener. I think Baltimore has their home opener this week, too, because they played at Denver and they played at Oakland.
All right, so we have 3 factors with this Chicago-Seattle game. It's Seattle's home opener.
Yes.
Cam Chancellor's coming back.
Yes.
And they get Jimmy Clausen. Jimmy
Clausen is coming in under really fierce circumstances here. Like, they had a game, I guess it was in 2012. It was in 2012. In 2012, where the Bears played San Francisco on a Monday night, and this was the week after Alex Smith had the concussion that altered the direction of his career and the direction of 2 franchises. So Alex Smith was out, but Jay Cutler was also out in that game. I forget what the injury was, but they brought Jason Campbell in, and that was when the San Francisco defense was still, like, frightening.
Right.
Oh, dude, it was no chance, bro. It was absolutely no chance. Like, he wasn't going to knock any rust off. They were going to knock the rust off of him. I mean, they were just in his kitchen all game long. There was nothing that anybody could have done under that circumstance. Does it feel to you like that's what Jimmy Clausen is walking into?
Jimmy Clausen in his small hands, and it's probably going to be moist up there because it's Seattle. It's always moist up there.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a couple fumbles, couple picks.
This is not going to go.
A lot of sacks.
Yeah, this ain't going so well for John Fox. Because if I were John Fox, I would believe that I could win with any quarterback on earth. And you know why I would believe I could win with any quarterback on earth if I was John Fox? Because I was a field goal away from winning the Super Bowl with Jay Delhomme. They never forget that. Say what you want about John Fox. John Fox went to a Super Bowl and another NFC Championship game with Jay Delhomme as his quarterback. Because I know a lot of people don't think John Fox is a very good coach. This is what I think about John Fox as it relates to coaching. He must be good at the stuff that we can't see. Seriously, because we see the bad decisions and the stuff that go on in games, but he's won everywhere that he's been. I mean, John Fox has been there to win games. He's been to 2 Super Bowls. And like I say, almost won one with Jake Delhomme. Like, he must know a little something, right? Maybe just a little. Anyway, how did we wind up talking about John Fox? Back to Jimmy Clausen. How bad is it going to be for Jimmy Clausen? Because how loud is it going to be in that stadium?
And I think the Seahawks, they need their fans. The fans know it. Like, they need to get back to playing Seahawks football, whatever that means. If it's running the ball, if it's playing stout defense, they need to get back to all of that.
Right.
They need this week.
And Jimmy Clausen needs a little silence so he can think. Like, I don't feel like that's a gentleman that can be afforded to be out here trying to play football with any level of distraction, let alone the level of distraction at the 100-plus decibels that they're going to be cranking it up there at that stadium. Because I guess part of it is architecturally the way the stadium is built. But it is crazy to me, like, the idea that there's so much variance between stadiums on what stadium is or is not loud based on the people who are there or based on the one they built. Like, if I'm building a new stadium, why would I do anything other than build the loudest place I possibly could? Like, how is everybody not trying to be like, yo, I want this same exact stadium as the Seahawks have?
You would have thought, now that the Seahawks stadium is like, what, 10, 12 years old now, however old it is, you would think every stadium after that would have been built the same way.
Or just figure out what they did. Like, we're just going to build in noise. Because, I understand that they're passionate fans, but I thought they was chilling up in the Pacific Northwest, just kind of as a lifestyle.
Well, to their credit, they were loud in the Kingdome back when the Mariners were good, too.
They were. Well, the domes, like, if you can't make your dome loud, Falcons, you have a problem.
Wow. And you did mention patched in noise earlier, too.
Yeah, they did. They patched in noise. They had to patch in noise to make their dome loud, and it still wasn't actually loud. How is that possible? I just don't understand. Well, I mean, you watching the Falcons, what you got to get loud about. But still, like you raised the question as to how in the world is that possible? But for Seattle, this would be interesting, too, because they haven't been able to run the ball. Like, I think that's, if they can't run the ball offensively, the whole identity of that team comes down to their ability to run the ball. The question is this the year that Marshawn Lynch lost it, or is this purely just a matter of the line? And then, of course, Shannon, Jimmy Graham, we're hearing, is none too pleased.
I would imagine so. You were on record-breaking pace when you were in New Orleans, and now you're not seeing the ball.
I feel like he basically moved into, like, the Princeton offense. You know what I mean? Like, he's a high-flying sort of cat, and now he's come over, and they're like, yo, pass, screen away. That's what your gig is. We need you to pass, and we need you to screen away.
Reminds me of Kobe when the Lakers had, Eddie Jordan?
Yes.
Did they have Eddie Jordan? Did they?
Eddie Jordan was Mike Brown.
They went to a lot of coaches. They went to a lot of coaches.
Mike Brown was the head coach, and they brought Eddie Jordan in to run the Princeton offense, and then they fired Mike Brown, and they kept Eddie Jordan. And I know Mike Brown had to be at home all day long. They're like, well, what the hell's he doing here? Like, I always wanted to know what did they have Eddie Jordan doing during that time? Making copies? Like, what? What did they do? But, Shannon, I looked at this. I didn't realize it's only been 2 games, but thus far the Bears are 9th in the league in yards allowed per rush. Like, this isn't Seattle getting a chance to run against a team that can't stop the run. Like, that's not who they're going to be playing against. But, man, the Bears still can't stop the pass. Like, every time somebody talks about Lovie Smith and how the cover 2 is played out and everything else, and then in the Tampa 2, and they're only running but so much Tampa 2 now anyway. But that defense in Chicago went off a cliff the second Lovie got out of there. The second he got out of there, that defense went off of a cliff. And they can't pass the ball, and they can't stop anybody from passing the ball, which might have worked out in 1973. Not so sure about 2015.
So what you're telling me is to take the Bears, right?
Dude, if the Bears win that game against Seattle, that whole Seattle thing can come apart, right?
Oh, right. If they lose this game, of course it's not a must-win per se, but if they lose this game to the Bears at home.
Well, one thing that Pete Carroll hasn't been tested on, like, he's super, enthusiasm man, right? Like, he's all about the enthusiasm. Man, all that enthusiasm's real good when you're 7-1. That enthusiasm's the bomb when you're 10-3. When you're 0-3, man, you're going to get out of my face with all that. No, it's too early it's too early, Pete. I have not had my coffee, Pete.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
National news was made of this story at John Jay High School in San Antonio, where 2 players on the football team hit a referee, or an official rather, while he was not looking. Deadspin had the video got around, and I think a lot of people watched it and were understandably appalled by what they had seen. I mean, the dude's got his back turned, and these 2 kids in pads just come, and one hits him and knocks him to the ground, the other hits him as he is on the ground. And it led to a lot of questions at the time about how exactly it happened. A lot of people were jumping up talking about that's assault. These kids should go to jail, which I think is a crazy thought. But at the same time, there are lots and lots and lots of states that have specific charges for assault against a sports official. I mention that because these things aren't that rare. Far too common, certainly. But this wasn't like the one time this thing has ever happened. Like, a lot of the responses that people had would lead you to believe that, oh, my God, I'd never seen anything like that. And maybe you hadn't. But these things, they've happened. Now, of course, a stiff punishment was in order for the young man because you just can't have that. Now, the story got convoluted, though, because the players said that they were told by a coach to make that official pay. There have been reports outside the lines did a report on this where it appears that the coach did tell the young men to do this. The position coach who has been alleged to have done this, Shannon, he quit his job today. He resigned and then said that he resigned. And basically that he told the story that he told to jump on the grenade for the young men to try to protect their futures.
Right.
Yeah,
really. He resigned today, and this incident happened, 2 weeks ago?
Yes, and the Outside the Lines report came out yesterday, right? So, like, all this stuff comes out, and now all of a sudden my man's letting it go. I find it hard to believe that those players did that without being told to do it. And part of why I say that is the same reason why I discount the notion that there were racial slurs. Like, I don't really evaluate this situation at all in the context of the racial slurs because no one acted impulsively. Like, if you were to tell me that the official had used a racial slur and then one of the players hauled off on him, I just can't take it anymore. I'd view that differently than you being in a two deep and then you both hit the guy. Like, that wasn't impulse. You were composed. Right. You knew exactly what it was that you were doing. So that one, that one, no, not trying to hear it. Now, if the coach told you to do it, then that's a different story, and it appears that the coach told these young men to do it, and they finally have received their punishment. And I found this interesting. Like, I'm at ESPN.com with a John Barr report, and the headline on the story is, "Players ordered to hit ref can return to school next semester," lawyer says. And so it was put in the context of their ability to return to school. No. They're going to be in alternative school for the fall. They have 75 days of alternative school to do, and they'll receive credit for the time that they've already spent there so they can come back to high school on January the 15th. And what in the hell are we doing here? Now, I will admit that I don't have a great answer for what the punishment should be for these young men. I don't know what it should be. I do know this, though. Removing them from, like, your traditional academic environment to go to alternative school, it almost defeats the purpose of the alternative school. Like, I was under the impression that the alternative school was, for kids who, like, need socialization type help, and for those who are threatening to their fellow students, like those who make it impossible for others to learn. Well, what happened here didn't happen in a school. It happened on a football field.
I think the appropriate punishment for these two should have been whatever rules that area has for fighting, because I know a lot of school districts now will have rules, the same rules you have for fighting in school, you'll have it fighting at sporting events, right. Whether it's a 5 to 10 day suspension. Something like that, I can see, but they should be allowed to return to the school, not 75 days.
75, you're setting fire to an entire semester, right? And the reason that you're setting fire to an entire semester is that school is not there for the purpose of, like, learning.
No.
That's just not what it's there for. Like, think about that for a second. Shannon, imagine you were in school. You were in 10th grade or whatever it is, and they drop you off at a semester of alternative school. Like, you think they're teaching the classes that were the classes that you were taking?
No, I doubt it. No, it wasn't going to be any advanced algebra being taught at the alternative school.
Yeah, I was about to say, how much mathematical education is going on at this alternative school that these young men are going to go to? Which then begs the question, what's being helped? Like, what exactly are we doing here? There's something really off about punishing kids by derailing them academically if they are not a threat to anyone else. And I don't think that anyone would make an argument that the young men that we're talking about here are threats. So why do people want this punishment so badly? So I was on Twitter earlier today, and I was just saying that I think the punishment is too stiff. And the response I kept getting was, well, they need to be accountable. There's got to be a better way to make them accountable than this, right? So, like, you can't play football anymore. If you wanted to say, like, one of those kids is a senior, so he can't play football anymore, okay, your career is done. If you wanted to say about the other guy that he can't play football this season, hell, if you wanted to carry it over to next season, I might be inclined to listen to you. But what are you doing here?
Where's the correlation for removing him from the school? I don't get it.
No, I think people just want a punishment. Like, they just want some kind of punishment. Now, Shannon, I don't know if you've seen this, but the official is now saying that he has been suffering from post-concussion syndrome.
Of course he has.
Yeah, he has been suffering from post-concussion syndrome. I mean, who am I to question it, right? Like, I don't have an answer for that. I'm not in the man's head. I'm not there. So maybe he sues somebody. Maybe he gets some bread. I don't know who he's going to sue. I get the feeling these young men, I mean, maybe they have lemonade stands or something like that, but I imagine they don't have any money to pay out to the dude. Like, I don't know where he's going to get the money from if he were to try to sue or something like that, and I hope he's doing better. Like, whatever happened on that hit, I sincerely hope that he is doing better, and I think that the end result that we need to have on all of this is basically doing better. So, if these guys were ordered by their coach to do it, then I think 75 days is absolutely insane. I mean, there's no other way to put that. Kid's going to do what the coach tells him to do. Like, that's how it goes. All these arguments that they should have stopped and told the coach, well, I'm not going to do that. If they were going to do that, they'd probably do that while those coaches are cussing them out, right? Like, a significant part of playing these games and a significant part of why we encourage people to get into athletics in that way is for the respect for authority. So if the man tells you to do this, especially if you wanted to do it in the first place, right? And there ain't no crime to want to do it. But if you're already mad enough to hit this dude and the coach says go ahead and do it, all right, that might have been volunteers. Like, anybody want to do this? Yeah, I got you, dog. But if the man says to do it, no matter what the circumstances are, they're going to wind up doing it.
No questions asked.
And if they're going to wind up doing it, like, it's kind of a grand irony here in being put out of school for doing what the teacher told you. I mean, that's what we've got here. We're going to put you out of school for doing what the teacher told you. So I hope it works out for those young men. I hope they're in a situation where they can get the academic stuff that they need out of there. And if the goal in this is somehow to make them better people who realize what they did wrong, hopefully this winds up helping with that. But even if it helps with it, it doesn't mean the penalty hasn't been excessive. Because if you got to be in there for a whole semester, it's one thing if you put kids in there for a week or two, right? Because then you just got to get through that week or two, you know?
Right.
You in there for a whole semester, you got to take on whatever the survival mechanisms are of the environment that you're in. Like, you got to figure out how to deal, like how to live in it. Not just how to deal with it, but you got to figure out how to live in it. And what in the world about learning to function in that academic environment is going to help these guys become better men on the heels of their mistake?
It won't.
It won't. So, you happy you just wanted your punishment? You got your punishment. After your punishment is done, then what? And if you haven't bothered to think about the then what, you probably need to sit down.
Bomani.
Urban Meyer finally realized that you have to name a starting quarterback.
Yeah, it's come to that point. Yes, I think so.
Like, I don't make the rules, but, you know, I hate to be all cliche, but if you have two quarterbacks, Shannon, how many quarterbacks do you actually have?
For most, no quarterback.
None. That's just how it goes. You got none if you got two quarterbacks. So, like, even when people talk about Florida and that Tim Tebow year, when people try to act like Chris Leak didn't exist, they had one quarterback. They just had this other guy who came in and ran, like, put your head down plays. Like, that would be like saying Arkansas had two quarterbacks back when Darren McFadden used to run the Wildcat. Right?
Right.
So anyway, Urban Meyer finally decided that Cardale Jones will remain the starting quarterback for them. But listen to this. I mean, this is, first of all, here's one quote from Urban. He says, Cardale's going to start. The other guy has to pass him, and that hasn't happened, which, okay, makes sense. But then here's what else Urban said about Cardale. He is the guy unless he doesn't perform well. But it's not him causing problems. It's the offense that's in a funk. Wait a minute. He's the guy unless he doesn't perform well, then that means he's not the guy.
And the offense is in a funk. Isn't that his responsibility?
Well, they got a lot going on. New coordinator, working guys at different positions. But the reality is this, though. If he's your guy, then not performing well doesn't mean he loses his job, at least not immediately. Like, the guy every now and then is going to have bad games. So take UCLA, for example. They got that true freshman out there. Chances are he's going to throw a couple stinkers out there.
Right.
And they're going to let him play through the stinkers because he's the guy. So if Cardale's the guy, then there ain't no if he doesn't play well. He is your guy unless you got no other option.
He's Mr. Right Now.
He's Mr. Right Now. But see, I think it's a strange play for Urban, though, in some ways, because the players voted J.T. Barrett as the captain. Keep in mind that Jones has been there longer. You know, it looked like his face been here since 1978.
Super.
Cardale Jones looked like
super senior.
He looked like my big brother. I don't mean he looks like he looked like my big brother's big brother. Like, that is a grown man right there. And J.T. Barrett is the one that they voted the captain. You know, they won a national championship with Cardale Jones.
And it's interesting because going into the season, everyone assumed that Barrett would be the guy. I mean, it was a competition, but they figured because Barrett played more games, and yes, Jones balled out in the 3 games, but they figured you would assume that Barrett would be the guy.
Well, here's the thing, though. Cardale Jones didn't do anything in those 3 games that I would believe that J.T. Barrett could not do. You know, like, it wasn't a situation where, like, Jones was good, but part of the novelty of Jones being good was the fact that we had never seen him play, and we found it to be mind-blowing that he could step up and play like that. But it wasn't as though he was playing so well that you forgot that J.T. Barrett existed. J.T. Barrett was first team All Big Ten.
Right.
And so I assumed that Barrett was going to be the starter. It did not happen. And how do we wind up down this road? because the worst thing that could have happened to Ohio State in this offseason happened, and that was Cardale Jones coming back to school. Now, you want as much talent as you could possibly have. And if J.T. Barrett, for example, were to get hurt, then you would be glad that you had Cardale Jones come back to school. But this is not a position that really allows for sharing. You've got to have one guy. Like, if you want to understand why it's so difficult for schools to recruit another quarterback after they already have one in place, and why guys try to work it where I'll commit to go to your school so long as you don't offer another quarterback, you don't want to wind up in this situation. This isn't where you want to be. So if Cardale Jones would have gone to the NFL, which I still think he should have done because I don't think this offense he's in is going to prepare him that much for the NFL. I would have been like, look, we got this small bit of tape. Here's the potential. Even if I get drafted in the second or third round, if I get drafted in the second round, I can watch for a couple of years. I can give me the time to sit on the oak, but more time wasn't going to help. Like, I don't think that was going to make him into a better prospect. All the things he learns how to do right now, he could have learned doing for somebody's check. Like, he had that option of doing that. But if he had left, J.T. Barrett is your starting quarterback. Braxton Miller is playing H-back. There's no snaps being split in camp. Everybody knows in the summer who's going to wind up being the guy, and that's one less thing for us to think about as a team. That team that has so much talent and everything else, we don't know who the quarterback is.
And you know what doesn't become a story? Urban Meyer having to name a starting quarterback every week. Every week he has to make the announcement, this guy is starting. When you have your starter, that announcement doesn't have to be made. It's assumed. Everybody knows. You know, Cardale is our starter moving forward, and that's that. Yep. But every week, because these two are pretty much equal, you have to make that announcement.
And every week, whoever is the starter is looking over to the sideline. Every single week. Now, the thing to me, I don't see much different between these two guys. Like, having two of them, I don't see a difference. Like, you could, whichever one you had, I think you would have been all right with. Like, I don't think what happens with Ohio State this year, if they lose a game, I don't think you're going to say if we had a different quarterback in there, it would have gone the other way. They just seem to be about what and what to me.
Right. From watching the Ohio State last year and then some this year, Barrett seems to be more consistent, but Jones gives them an element of things that Barrett just can't do. Jones can throw it 40 yards while being tackled and pulled down. You actually saw that on a couple touchdown throws in the Virginia Tech game. I mean, he's getting pulled down. Defensive ends are trying to pull him down, and he's still throwing the ball. It looks like a lion trying to tackle an elephant. He's still going to get the ball out.
He is a giant. Like, I just can't imagine, like, the idea that you imagine being like a corner on the corner blitz trying to take down Cardale Jones.
It won't happen.
It's not happening. It's not happening at all. He's like Byron Leftwich, except he's not fat. You know, like you're running into a wall there. There's not going to be too much that's like, oh, so soft and comfortable as I try to tackle this man. That's not what it's going to be. But if he doesn't come back, things are so much easier for them. Like, I'm trying to think of other teams that have had two good quarterbacks where there was some ambiguity of which one of them would play. Like Texas had that with Major Applewhite and Chris Sims through those years, right? And it was an issue the whole way. But as a counterexample, at University of Georgia, the 4 years of David Green, you'll remember, those are supposed to be the DJ Shockley years, right? David Green and Shockley, I think they got there. So when Shockley got, whatever year Shockley got there, I want to say in 01, and Shockley redshirted. And everybody thought that DJ Shockley was going to be the guy at Georgia forever. He redshirted. David Green never lost the job. But there was never any actual question about which one of those guys was going to be the quarterback. It was going to be David Green. And then at the end, DJ Shockley started. He played very well. He was a hero amongst everybody. But there was a quarterback. You knew who the guy was going to be. You got to have that. You got to know who your quarterback is going to be. And if that guy loses his job, then that guy loses his job. But it can't be we're trying to figure this out or running competition through the season. Can't be.
And I know the Ohio State players are saying all the right things, you know, that everyone's supportive and we'll go with whatever quarterback is playing. But it has to wear on the players at some point of not knowing. Just, you know, when the team comes out, that'll be our starter. I'm sure the team would like to have some sort of, hey, this is our guy moving forward.
Well, also, those dudes don't play the same game. Like, they don't have the same skill set. So given they don't have the same skill sets, I'm not the guy that can look out there and tell you everything about their play calling and everything. But I'd imagine the offensive coordinator is going to do this one way if it's Cardale Jones, and he's going to do this another way if it's J.T. Barrett. And when those guys are like, you know, think about this. In the summer, we talk about these guys always running routes with their quarterbacks, right, in the league and college and everything else, and developing that timing and everything else. You splitting these snaps between two guys, you lose by definition when that happens. And they have all that talent. The talent is unreal at Ohio State, but the margins matter.
And I know it might seem petty, but you just brought up the taking the extra snaps and working after practice. What do you do if you're a wideout? Do you have favorites? You obviously boys with one of the quarterbacks. You may be boys with both. But if Cardell's like, yeah, come on, let's go run some routes.
I said I was gonna be out there with JT today. They're gonna be on opposite sides of the field. Where Cardell's got his wide receiver camp going this way, and JT Barrett's got like, I want to go to the open end of the stadium.
And now, for Geico's edition of Stuff Found in Your Car, we go inside your side door pocket.
Hello, yes, the crumpled receipt with gum in it. From your anniversary dinner, you sprang for expensive wine, your server was Beth. That dinner was a couple $100. Money you could get back if you switched to Geico and saved hundreds of dollars on your car insurance. I bet you'd save that receipt. Frame it even. But really, where did I go wrong? Was it the corkage fee?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com today.
Our next guest, he is the editor at FootballOutsiders.com. Check out the Football Outsiders Almanac. I've checked it out and used it. I find it to be very helpful. His name is Aaron Schatz. Aaron, what's going on?
Hey, please always introduce me with Far Side, man. Every time I'm on, I'm good for that.
Hey, man, I'm with that. Now, let me ask you a question. I want to go back to Monday night because the world began to crash down on Andrew Luck, and all at once everyone seemed to remember that he has a tendency to throw the ball to the other team or kind of give it away a little bit. What did you think about seeing people all of a sudden have that harsh rush on him after they saw him on national television?
Well, it did seem like, on one hand, people don't want to accept a happy medium between Andrew Luck is totally overrated on one hand, and Andrew Luck has a horrible offensive line on the other hand. Because I think the problem is Luck does take chances down the field. He's got a little bit of that gunslinger mentality. My guess is that he does that because he feels like he has to do it all himself. He's had so little running help over his time in Indianapolis. He's always under pressure. He feels like he's got to get the ball downfield. It leads to more mistakes than you would expect otherwise. He also seems to throw the ball a lot when he's under so much pressure that he's going to be hit in motion, and that happened with a couple of his interceptions on Monday night. If he just held on to the ball and taken a sack, he wouldn't have turned it over. So it's a combination of the poor offensive line play and the fact that, T.Y. Hilton was injured for part of the game, so he didn't necessarily have all the receivers he normally has, and the fact that Luck himself is taking too many chances and was not playing up to his normal standards. His footwork wasn't good. But I have a lot more faith that Andrew Luck will right his own ship in the long term than that offensive line that's been terrible for 2 years is going to suddenly get better than it was the first 2 weeks of this year.
Well, let me ask you about the offensive line because I don't watch them play every game. Their line doesn't appear to be good, but Luck's sack numbers have fallen every year. Does that tie into what I saw in the Almanac about the fact that sack totals have more to do with the ability of the quarterback than the offensive line?
Yeah, he takes more hits and knockdowns than any other quarterback in the game. Over the last, the first 3 years of his career, he's taken probably, he's taken more hits than any other quarterback to the point where you could probably fit a whole nother quarterback in the gap between him and whoever's number two. Nobody gets knocked down like Luck. He doesn't take as many sacks because he gets rid of the ball. But when you get rid of the ball while you're being hit, sometimes that ball ends up in the hands of the other team, and that's a little bit of a problem. Sometimes it's better to just kind of go down in a crumple the way Tom Brady does sometimes. Of course, what's best is to get rid of it entirely, which, historically is what guys like Drew Brees and Peyton Manning do. They don't take the sack or throw a pick. They throw it out of bounds. But, Luck tends to try to get the ball. He tries to make something happen when he's under super pressure, which leads to a lot of incompletes and interceptions and a lot of him being on the ground, but after he's thrown the ball, not before.
All right, we're talking to Aaron Schatz of FootballOutsiders.com. Switching gears, the Eagles play against the surprising 2-0 Jets. What have you thought about the Eagles' slow start?
Yeah, I am surprised at how poorly that the Eagles have played. Their offensive line obviously has been terrible. DeMarco Murray last year had 6 carries that lost 5 yards or more, which was the most of any running back in the league. But partly he had more than any other running back because he carried the ball more than any other running back. He's already got 3 carries like that this year, and it's only been 2 games. He just got stuffed at the line or behind the line over and over again. Their defense we thought was average, and it's looked average. Maybe a little bit worse than that, but they've had some injuries in the linebackers, so you don't expect them to, suddenly get better without Alonzo and Kendricks. But that offense has just been awful. I guess in some ways the good news for them is that the Romo injury and the fact that the Giants also started 0-2 means that they're very much still in it in the NFC East. But there's a really strong chance that they're going to start 0-3. Because, first of all, the Jets' defense is absolutely for real. I don't know about their offense, but their defense is absolutely for real. And second, that game is at the Meadowlands. So the Eagles are going on the road. And the Jets have to be favored in this game given how they've played and that they're the home team.
All right, let me ask you this. Switching gears, going to Seattle. Seattle lost their first 2 games of the year. They're going to be playing their first home game. They're going to be playing it against the Bears. Were you able to really get a good handle on what the effect was of not having Cam Chancellor those first 2 games?
No, to be honest, it's really hard. Safety is the hardest position in the NFL to judge from the outside. Whether you're judging by trying to watch the film or you're judging through statistics, either way, so much of what you see from safety is based on the way they're used in a defense rather than how well they play actually themselves, that it's just really hard to judge them based on being the outside, unless you're talking to the coaches about how players are doing. So it's hard to tell what the difference really was between Cam Chancellor and his backup. Obviously, the backup let that touchdown go in the first week, and that looked awful. But I doubt that he was blowing plays like that left and right constantly. And certainly I don't, not being in the locker room, I don't know what the leadership and presence of Cam Chancellor mean as opposed to the leadership and presence of Earl Thomas or Richard Sherman. I mean, I have a hard time believing sort of the idea that, wow, Seattle defense has struggled because it didn't have Chancellor's leadership. Because it's not like there's not other leaders in that locker room. Those are veteran guys. That defense has been together a long time. Well-respected guys like Sherman and Earl Thomas and Michael Bennett. I can't imagine there's really a leadership drought.
All right, talking to Aaron Schatz of FootballOutsiders.com, and I've been talking about how nationally televised games are the exposure, basically, because people don't get to watch that many football games, then everybody watches at once, and if you have a bad game on national television, the world comes crashing on you. It just happened to Andrew Luck. It's happening to Kirk Cousins as we speak. And on Sunday night, Matthew Stafford and the Lions play against Peyton Manning and the Broncos. What have you thought about Matthew Stafford so far this year?
He's hurt, apparently. I mean, he's been under a lot of duress, and apparently he's hurt. And if your shoulder is not right, Denver is not the team you want to play. Denver has been the best defense in the league so far this year. They're number 1 in our ratings on defense this year, and we had them projected as one of the top 5 defenses. They're basically carrying that team. The offense is actually 31st, but the defense is first. And there's so many good players on that defense. You've got a great pass rush, right, with DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller, and you've got great secondary where you've got Talib and you've got Harris, and Bradley Roby is kind of underrated, plus T.J. Ward at safety. So if your shoulder is hurting and your offense isn't going, that is not a good defense to face. I think one thing that Detroit needs to do is not give up on the run so early the way they did against Minnesota. I mean, what did Amir Abdullah have, like 5 carries or something? They just gave up on the run from the very start of the game. And with Denver, I mean, as good as their defense is, the pass defense is better than the run defense.
All right, last question for Aaron Schatz. How worried should Baltimore Ravens fans be? They're 0-2 with 2-0 Cincinnati coming into the building.
Well, at least 2-0 Cincinnati is coming into their building, so that's kind of a nice thing if you need to get off the schneid and get that win. Based on our ratings on Football Outsiders, Baltimore is the top 0-2 team, right? We have 2 0-2 teams that have basically been average so far this year, even though they're 0-2. One is the Giants, who are currently in the midst of beating Washington, and the other is Baltimore. The worry for Baltimore should be that they're in the toughest division in the league. Cincinnati started 2-0, and while Pittsburgh started 1-1, they look really good, and they got the hardest game on their entire schedule off the board in week 1 by having to go to Foxborough. So, yeah, they lost, but that's probably the most likely loss on the entire schedule. So it's tough for Baltimore to start 0-2. But Baltimore is still playing well. That's still a quality team. They just have to compete with 2 other quality teams. It's nice they have Cincinnati coming to them. but they're going to have to fight their way back. Our playoff odds only give Baltimore a 16% chance of making the playoffs, given how they've started, compared to 68% for Cincinnati and 50% for Pittsburgh.
All right, he is the editor of FootballOutsiders.com. He's also a fan of the Far Side, which makes him a friend of our program. Aaron Schatz, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, hope to be out again.
Bomani.
Actually going to hit you with some NBA news, not because it's incredibly consequential, but because it's highly entertaining. Now, if I was going to hit you with news of some level of consequence, I would tell you about some of the movings involving Tristan Thompson. I think I got all caught up on that. But Tristan Thompson apparently will be willing to accept a 3-year offer, Shannon, from the Cavs. So
okay. Well,
we found that out today.
Camp opens up on Saturday.
Damn, already?
Think about it. It's the end of September.
Damn.
The league opens what, Halloween weekend?
I guess, but it still feels soon. Like, I don't have time to pay any attention to that. We got football. That's consuming. But anyway, we did get some basketball news that I think is very, 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 very important for everyone, which is that Ron Artest is, Metta World Peace. Shannon, do we still have to call him Metta World Peace?
Apparently.
Like, I feel like when Chad Johnson went to that Chad Ochocinco thing, it was like, how long do I have to keep doing this? You know, like, okay, like,
right.
I bet you this. I bet you nobody in Ron Artest's family calls him anything other than Ron or Ron.
Yeah, Ron, probably.
Yeah, you think that Ron Artest's brother is calling him Metta?
No.
Like, imagine that Ron Artest calls the house and is like, yo, it's me, it's Metta. Who?
What?
They think he was a con artist. But anyway, the Lakers have signed Ron Artest.
And you know, obviously, who the first person that Ron Artest had to thank when coming back to the Lakers, right?
I definitely want to thank my doctor, Dr. Sandy, my psychiatrist.
I thought he was going to thank Queensbridge.
Oh, that was coming too.
Well, the one thing I'll say for him, but that right there is part of why I really, really like Ron Artest. Like,
me too.
The things that Ron Artest has done some things in the league that we know are, of course, problematic. Slamming down the HD camera, of course, everything that happened in Detroit and all of that.
When HD was new, too. That was an expensive camera.
Yeah, that was a really expensive camera. Like, right now, somebody could have taken that with their phone, but that was a really expensive camera. But he had issues, and he has conquered them. Well, not so much conquered, but attempted to get them under control in a way that more people need to be able to do. You know, like, there are not that many people who will face up with their problems the way that Ron Artest did and really worked to become a better person and did so publicly. Now, of course, there's some hiccups along the way as it went with that, but I have a real respect for the work that Ron Artest did to try to better himself. So, like, I'm always here for Ron Artest things. That being said, the Lakers signing Ron Artest to play on this team, that tells me one thing and one thing only. The Lakers know they about to be sorry.
Well, if we're not going to be good, we might as well be entertaining.
And there it is right there. Because, hey, say what you want about the Lakers. When Kobe is playing, the Lakers are entertaining. I don't think he's any good anymore. Don't get me wrong. But when he's out there, he is entertaining. Was there a more entertaining moment in the NBA last year than when Jeremy Lin had the ball that one time and Kobe was breaking open to take a jumper and Swaggy P was breaking open to take a jumper at the same time, and Jeremy Lin was looking at them like somebody asked him to, like, recite the periodic table. Like, he had to give the whole thing. Like, what am I supposed to do? No, I don't know I do not know what has an atomic number of 74. Can you give me a second to look that up?
So now next year we get Kobe coming back, we get Metta World Peace, and we get Swaggy P.
Dude, I forgot Swaggy P was on the team. I thought the Lakers had traded Swaggy P. We talked about that before the show. I was like, at least they don't have Swaggy P anymore. You're like, what do you mean they don't have Swaggy P anymore? And then we looked it up, and they still have Swaggy P. So in this era of small ball, you can have a lineup with D'Angelo Russell, Swaggy P, Kobe Bryant, Metta World Peace, and Roy Hibbert. Well, he won't be small, but you know what I mean, right? That is a legitimate, conceivable lineup for that team, and that sounds hilarious. Can we make a reality show out of the conversations that Roy Hibbert and Ron Artest have with one another?
And think about this. They got Lou Williams, too. You want to talk about shots getting up.
Oh, they do have Lou Williams. D'Angelo Russell, boy. Welcome to the NBA, young man. Welcome to the NBA. He already has that penchant for saying things that are a little bit offensive.
Right.
You know, he keeps it a little bit too real, from what I can tell, the young man. Woo-wee. The Lakers will be entertaining if nothing else, and they got to be because they're going to be on TV a lot. And I never get mad about people scheduling the Lakers to be on TV a lot. And the reason that I have no problem with that is if Kobe plays, it's worth it. They're still L.A., they're still the Lakers. If Kobe plays, we'll watch it. Like, Shannon, you're a Knicks fan. I guess you can't really appreciate this, but when the Knicks are bad, they're so much fun.
I don't know how to take that.
Actually, I think like a 41-41 Knicks team is even more fun, where they're not actually good, but they're kind of fighting for the playoffs, so they become relevant to watch, and then they do real Nicky things.
Yeah.
You know? Like, you don't enjoy watching it, but the rest of America, that's about as good as it gets. In fact, can we just have Ron Artest go play for the Knicks after this so we can have him with Carmelo?
You remember he played with the Knicks a couple years ago.
I had a feeling he did. I thought about that. Did they cut him or did he quit?
Yes. No, they bought him out.
Oh, gosh, the Lakers are going to be so bad. And I don't want the Lakers to be bad. I take no joy in the Lakers being bad. I do take joy when the Lakers are only kind of good because the Lakers fans are always so patronizing to everybody else. Like, look, right. Fans of different teams on different levels root in different ways, okay? So if you're the Lakers, you got this championship or bust mentality. And Lakers fans have always been real judgmental toward those fans of teams that aren't as good about how they take joy and take happiness in, like, the smallest things, right? Then that year the Lakers were fighting to make the playoffs. That year Dwight was there. Oh, man, you should have seen them on Twitter during those games that they were fighting to make the playoffs. They were mad at me. I was like, oh, this is who you are now. Like, you used to have this championship pedigree about yourselves. This is who you are now. You're just like everybody else. Your team just never lost before. Then your team started some losing, and then guess what? Now you're just like everybody else. Except for now, what are they like? They're a team that just signed Ron Artest. And some dude named Gerald just hit me up, Shannon, and said, don't forget about Julius Randle's on that Lakers squad. What the hell is Julius Randle going to do? What are you going to do?
We're not out here to watch Julius Randle. He might be a good player. No, we're out here for the entertainment.
Yeah, but this team just can't be good. It's not possible. But at least they'll be entertaining because they'll have Ron Artest. The post-game interviews with him and Swaggy P will be fantastic.